Okay, spiral throwers, taking a break from my newborn to do a video on mudding in what can only be described as an Al-Qaeda, hostage video setup here. The reason I want to talk about mudding is because I get a lot of comments from you guys on the channel about I don't have money to get this whatever Catalina football mud. This stuff that people are saying is, I honestly don't even know. Like, it's made of special chemicals or has special minerals in it. It's from a certain part of the United States. It's like in a riverbed. It's whatever. All this nonsense. Honestly, like descriptions that are indistinguishable from evangelical pastors trying to sell you like health serums. And I didn't really know what to say about a lot of these comments because I don't do mudding for my balls. The balls that I've broken in and used are just brushed and waxed, a little bit of tack spray, a little bit of Wilson conditioner. But yesterday I figured, you know what? I'm going to try and mud the Duke and see how it turns out with the mud in my backyard. There's the finished product. That's been mudded, conditioned, waxed, and brushed. I followed a rough guideline based on some stuff I've seen online over the years about how to do this. As far as making the mud, I just took some stuff from my backyard, tried to make the consistency look about the same as what I've seen online, this milkshake texture, kind of smooth, kind of thick, and rubbed a little bit on. I'm going to talk about that process today, and we're going to do it with 2 other balls because I want to see if it works, if I really take it seriously and do it properly. I'm going to follow the Gridiron Prep mudding strategy. I chose them because they're popular amongst you guys, the commenters. They're popular online and they have an Instagram page that looks to be pretty active. It looks like they're doing balls for the CFP actually. So I figure I'll follow their stuff as best as possible, except we're gonna do it on a budget. I'm gonna use mud that I found in my backyard, okay? There's just no clay in there as far as I can tell. There's a lot of rocks, a lot of sediment, but I did my best to get it out and mixed it with a little bit of water, came up with a little solution like that. So you can see it's kind of thick. I don't want to spill it on the floor, but it's kind of thick and more or less smooth. I don't think it matters if it's perfectly smooth. I can't imagine the stuff you're buying online is perfectly smooth either. In fact, I know it's not. I've seen videos of it. I also have here, instead of their leather balm, which again, like these guys are selling kits of stuff that you can get from Shoppers Drug Mart if you're here, or a shoe store if you're here. In Canada, or some other place for a third of the price or less, and they're calling it football mud. Instead of their balm, I'm going to use this snowproofing stuff that I have for my boots. I have a couple of pairs of Red Wings, like I've mentioned before. This looks an awful lot like the Gridiron Prep mud, or not mud, the balm. So I'm going to use this. I think it serves about the same purpose, kind of like reinforcing the leather and weatherproofing it. So I'm going to try that. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just a note here before we start. I hate that people are selling mud for $100. I know for me up in Canada, if I want to get some of this stuff, whether it's from Gridiron or anyone else, it's like minimum after shipping $100 for like an 8-ounce tin. I think Big Game makes some you can get for $50-$60 US plus shipping. Gridiron makes it, a few other places. There's places you can get it on eBay. And no one ever tells you what's in the mud. So I don't know if it's some special mixture. I don't know if it's, no one knows the ingredients. You ask AI chatbots or whatever, you can't find it. I looked online, I can't find it. Reddit doesn't have anything. And the reason it pisses me off is because people buy these footballs. Like the Nike ball is pretty expensive, it's a couple $100. And they don't want to mess up the break-in process, right? They see online all these videos of people doing the break-in. They don't want to mess it up. And so what do? They take every precaution they can to make sure the ball is done right so they don't have to buy another one. And that means paying almost double the price of the ball for the equipment to break it in. The equipment is mud, wax, like a coarse brush, and some leather conditioner. I look and see on Gridiron, not to pick on them because other companies do this too, but they're fresh in my mind. They have this like tack conditioner, they call it. All the tack conditioner is these 2 products mixed together at like 1 to 10 or something like that. Right? But they sell it for 10%, 20% more than you could get both of those for separately. I hate that. One thing I've learned doing the channel is that a lot of you guys are not interested in spending a ton of money on footballs, certainly not interested in spending a ton of money on breaking them in, but still want to have a good product. So I got a few balls here that I have. Like I said before, I don't mind messing these up because I don't use these in game, although this one I have to say did turn out pretty good, so I have high hopes. Let's start with the the first part of the process here. So I have an old t-shirt in lieu of a rag, and all I'm gonna do, I've brushed these balls already, which is the first step. I'm gonna take a little tiny bit of this wax onto the shirt, okay, little tiny bit, and I'm gonna brush it panel by panel onto the ball. And when I'm done with that, what I'm gonna do is heat up the ball. That's what it calls for next, a little bit of heat on the panel. So you put a little bit of wax on a shirt or on a rag or whatever you have, and just do it panel by panel. Now I can already see one problem I'm gonna have is that this shirt is just a bit too, it's a bit too coarse for this product, but it's still rubbing in pretty good. And what will probably also happen, honestly, is I will wind up taking this tape off of the laces, because I can already tell that this is gonna come off during the process anyway. And what's a break-in without breaking in the whole ball, right? So that was a maybe nice to have idea before I started doing the video, but we're gonna skip this. I might even try and use my hands a little bit to do this, just to get as much of it on as I can. And I'm really not using that much of this. Over at Gridiron, this comes in a stick, like a deodorant stick almost. And what they say is to rub it in evenly on each panel until you notice the panel darkening. Now, I know this has this effect on a leather product because, as I mentioned, when you do this to your boots, it does darken the leather. It accelerates the break-in process. And so when you get, a pair of leather boots, generally they look new. They look too new almost. And part of the process for breaking them in is either just wearing them until they soften up, or using something like this to do the lion's share of the work. So I'm going to go over the white stripes. I'm going over the stitching. I'm going over the logos. I'll try and avoid the valve as much as I can, because I don't imagine you want wax in your valve, but whatever. Let's see how it goes. We're doing it for science, guys. We're doing it for science, okay? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The other recommendation they make on the Gridiron site is if you need to even out the wax on the ball, then you use your Wilson brush, and to wash the brush after every application. That's one thing I like. Some other places, like Ball Breakers, in their videos, they recommend you buy 2 Wilson kits, so you get 2 brushes. Absolutely not. You don't need to do that. Okay, so I got all the wax in here. I'm gonna just give this a quick brush with my brush. Okay, put a towel down so that you have something you can kind of anchor your ball to. So this is a lot darker already. Not sure if you can tell, but I can definitely tell. I'm just gonna give this a quick spin, do the top half of each panel to make this easier on myself. And do, like always, different strokes for different folks, right? Over the leather here. Don't want to spill my coffee on the side of the table. It's unwise to bring a coffee down here. Okay, so you just brush it in evenly. And then I'm going to hit this with a heat gun. I'm going to do the same thing with the Nike ball. And then I'm going to leave it for an hour. Okay, so in lieu of a heat gun, again, cost saving here, my wife's hair dryer. Okay, so we'll put this on the towel. That one's done, done-ish for this step anyway. Now maybe I'm just being naive, but I think that the Nike ball, because of the color, may actually take to this process a bit better. What is mudding supposed to do, right? It's supposed to break in the leather, but also the big thing is making it look like it's ready for play on Sundays, right? So I'm just gonna give my brush a quick wipe here. Feel some wax on that, so I'm going to leave it actually. This ball's already been brushed as well, but I was thinking about doing another pass. So we're just going to take the wax here, wipe it in even across the ball, each panel, best I can. I'm doing the logos, like I said, I'm doing the stripes, I'm doing everything except the laces and the valves. So I figure that way you get exactly the break-in that you'd be paying for. That's another thing. These guys want you to pay. Like, talk about a good business model, honestly. They want you to pay to send them balls that they can break in for you. Now, I don't know how long this would take a professional to do. Got to imagine they have like power brushes and stuff like that. So you're not wasting time, like, you know, trying to get your Wilson brush to brush these things in. You'd have huge forearms by the end of it, but that may not be something you're after as part of this process. You may just want something quick and efficient. It's a good business model if you can do it, because like I said, people are afraid, I think, to do this themselves. But it's still expensive. You send your ball there, and then I think there's like at least one service I looked at. I don't know who, but these guys wanted to charge. They wanted to charge extra to get your ball back sooner. So like that tells me that if you pay the extra, they'll send it back to you basically within 2 days of receiving it. All that tells me is they either don't have that much business, or they're putting other balls on the back burner or rushing through them. Like, that's not, in my opinion, a great a great thing to be telling people you offer if you run a business like this. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna do a quick brush of this too. Just use the towel as an anchor point here. I do notice it's getting kind of thick around the SRS stitching, but otherwise this definitely is darkening the ball. And as I mentioned, I think this one will take to it better because of the color. So both these balls have only ever been through Wilson conditioner, wax, and the brush. Nothing else. There's been no shaving cream on these balls, no secondary kind of products or anything like that. So this is about as fresh a ball as you'll get. This one I used a lot of this stuff on. I can already tell this is more than maybe I should have used, but whatever. We're learning here, guys. We're learning. So I'm gonna brush this in. Okay, it's the top half. Let's do the other side. I'm gonna wash my brush after this. You can just put it under water. I did this yesterday when I was doing the mud. Just put it under a little water, wash it off, let it dry for 15-20 minutes, put it bristle side down on a towel or on a table. Don't go crazy. This stuff's meant to work and last. Okay, now the fun part here. A few problem spots there. I just tried to smooth them out a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna put this stuff away, clean up this mess here, and I'll see you in 1 hour. Okay, we are back. We have done what we'll call the, I guess, wax. I don't even know what they call this on the big, or the Gridiron website, but the wax coating on the ball. Let's move these to the middle here. So you can see the balls are significantly sort of darker than they were before. That leather's definitely taken some of that wax. These feel really soft, actually. I'm surprised. I thought they'd be a little more slick, but they feel pretty good. Now we're gonna do the mud. So a couple things. I'll show you one more time here. This is the mud I use. This is from my backyard. It's garbage mud, okay? I just took a old cup I have here from the Bitcoin podcast, brought it outside, scooped a bunch. And then what I tried to do was get rid of the bigger rocks. I didn't get rid of all of them. And then I just added a bit of water. I don't know if you can see that or not. I hope you can. Just to get it to this kind of consistency where you can rub it on. Everyone online says to use gloves when you do this. I don't have latex gloves. What I do have is a dog, and the dog needs bags when he fires off a turd outside. So I grabbed a few of the bags, and this is what I used yesterday to rub the mud on the ball. It's fairly simple. Now, what you're gonna do is rub it all around the ball except for near the laces. I'm gonna do the stripes too because I don't care that much about the look of the stripes, but if you wanted to avoid that, you could tape over the stripes or just avoid them as part of this process. You're gonna take a thin layer of this stuff, just a little bit like that, okay? And you're gonna coat the ball evenly. Like I said, you might have some like sediment or rocks in here, but they're gonna be pretty minimal overall, I would say. If you do a good job picking out the big ones, that's really all you need to do. And what this is supposed to do is color the ball and soften the leather. It helps with the break-in process. You can imagine if you were doing, you know, like you were throwing this ball outside to break it in. This is the kind of thing that the ball would encounter naturally. But because NFL teams and, you know, if I had to guess, college teams and all these other programs that use these processes, because they don't have that much time to throw the ball 1,000 times, they do this instead. And so what this does is, you know, I think anyway, simulate that that use. So you're just going to do one panel at a time, nothing crazy. You can pick up the mud with your hands in the bag or in your gloves, whatever you have. Or like I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to do is just kind of dip my hand in and get the mud like that. Because that way I find that you get less of the rocks, less of the sediment. And then you're just going to rub it into the ball. Okay, nice thin, even-ish layer across the entire ball. The reason I think that you could say that gloves are easier for this process, not only because the bag doesn't necessarily want to stay on my hand. That's, you know, kind of annoying, but it's not the end of the world. What is annoying though is that you end up with one hand, your offhand, that ends up getting muddy anyways. And you know, you might not want that, and you might prefer to not have mud on your second hand if you can avoid it. Let's say you wanted to grab something or you needed that hand. Other thing too is that your fingers will kind of take mud off of the ball, which you don't necessarily want either. So yesterday actually I used an elastic as part of this process. And I think maybe before I do the Nike ball, I'll go get an elastic just to keep the bag on my hand, because you can see it's like kind of coming off. You can just rub the mud in there. You're not in a rush. No big deal here. No one's timing you or anything like that. You're just doing the best you can, making sure you're getting all that mud into the leather and coming out with an even coat. Thin, even coat. These are the two big words, thin and even. Okay, so you got a pretty good layer there. And again, like, you know, the guys who want to charge you for this service, I can't imagine they're doing anything much different than this. You can see online, guys like Ball Breakers have videos actually where they're showing you what their process is like. And, you know, they may say, oh, mud is better, it's Lena Blackburn, whatever. Like, I don't know about you, but if I bring this ball to the park to play and it hits the ground, it's not going to be Lena Blackburn mud. It's going to be whatever's at the park. Same thing with your backyard or your park. So to me, it's like kind of a moot point. This whole, we need special mud. I don't buy it. I don't buy it, and I didn't buy it. I used my own. So I'm just going to do this here. Rub it in as best you can. Go over the logos if you want. Go over the stripes if you want. And should look something like that when you're done. You can even try your best to smooth it out even further, but this is about right. Okay, so I'll put that off to the side. I'm gonna get the elastic for the Nike ball. Hang tight. Okay, so let's get a new bag here, since that one's pretty dinged up. All right, toss this over your hand. All right, give it a quick wrap if you like it a little tighter, up to you. And all this is going to do is make it easier, because as you saw when I was doing the big game ball, that it does want to slide quite a bit. So you want to avoid that if you can. I might actually just take another pass at some of these spots. Pretty straightforward stuff. Like I said, there's no rush on any of this. You're going to get a darker ball no matter what. And you're going to let this ball dry for 3-4 hours. Yesterday I think I did 4 with the Duke, so you know, you do whatever you like with your ball, but something in that neighborhood is probably all you need. So you got a really good layer of mud, right? Easy. Put that here. Should have brought another towel out, but that's okay. Actually, maybe I'll just roll this ball over. Put that one there. Okay, same thing with this ball. So you just mix up the mud a little bit. then go nuts. People are worried about buying these super expensive products, like I said earlier, because the balls are really expensive. But at the end of the day, when you go to play with this ball, you're going to play in mud, in grass that's has a little bit of clay under it, probably. If you live in North America, in my area, it's sort of notoriously clay soil. So I was able to find this. Thankfully, that's got very little clay, if any at all. At least I can't see it. But when you go play at high school, unless you're playing on turf, you're probably going to get a middling field that's not super well maintained. These days, actually, most of the turf fields are locked to the public. They actually don't want you using them, which is annoying, since I'm pretty sure my taxes go to fund those schools. But whatever. That's probably a comment and a conversation for the Bitcoin show more than this one. But the point is that there's a lot of boutique ways to break your ball in, but I think that this is probably just as good as any of them, if I had to guess. You go ahead and just get a nice thick, or thin I should say, coat, rub it right into the leather as much as you can. And if you scratch the leather, don't freak out, man. Who cares? This is a ball you're going to use, unless you're just looking at it on the shelf, in which case, I could think of better ways to spend a couple $100 for something to put on a shelf than to buy one of these balls. I'm also rubbing it into the seams. Online, it does say that you can kind of avoid them or not. And for me, again, like, if you play football, even if it's just rec like me, you're gonna wind up damaging and hitting and bumping and scratching all the different parts of the ball anyway. So this idea that you should leave like the logo and the stripes, like I don't buy it. I don't think it's important to do that when you're doing this process. The laces, I'm not 100% sure, but honestly, you could probably get those too. Throw the thing underwater if you want. It's still gonna be okay. Good leather, like the stuff that Horween has, that Nike uses and Adidas uses and Wilson uses. This is good leather. This is not stuff that you get at Payless Shoes, right? It's not genuine leather, the trademarked synthetic stuff. This is, something that's going to respond well to use and to break in. That's the whole point, right? If it wasn't going to respond well, the balls wouldn't cost $200 per ball. And if the ball wasn't going to respond well, there wouldn't be places that could charge you another $150 for the materials to break it in when you can just use the stuff in your yard. But that's the way she goes. I don't think it makes you a sucker if you pay someone to do this, but I do think that you could do it yourself and probably learn a bit about leather care along the way, and learn a bit about what it takes to break in a ball, and learn a bit about the process around all these things, and brushing and waxing and mudding, and everyone's free to do what they like, but for me, I enjoy the process, and I don't necessarily want someone else to do it. I like doing it. I kind of want to do it myself. So we just make sure this is all smoothed out, rubbed in best we can here. This bag is running out of steam. My hands are starting to come through it. Maybe should have double bagged. Pause. And wouldn't have to worry about that, but instead I didn't. Okay, so there you go. That's probably pretty good. Thin layer. 4 hours. Okay, so it's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock now. I'm not sure, but I have to do my other show tonight, so I will come back after that. So maybe a little longer than 4 hours, and we'll see how this thing looks. I bet it's gonna look really good. Okay, so we have 2 balls here, mudded. They've been sitting for about 4 hours, maybe 4.5 hours. It's about 8:30, 8:40. I think I finished this around 3:30, so maybe a little longer. The Gridiron Prep website says to wait for 4 hours, between 3 and 4 hours. Then we're going to brush them, and we're going to apply conditioner, and then that should be the end of the process, right? Conditioner, tack, bar, and then that's it. So instead of using the Wilson brush first, like I did yesterday, what I'm going to do is take a horsehair brush that I have here. You can get this at like a shoe store, grocery store, drugstore, just like a standard shoe brush, just to get some of the thicker pieces of leather off so that I don't get too much dirt in the Wilson brush itself. And this is a bit of a process, I have to say, because you're brushing this ball, and there's a lot of dirt on these things, and it is, you can see probably in the camera, dusty. So I was like thinking to myself yesterday, I'm gonna have a heck of a time in the shower when all this loogie comes out of my nose. But it actually wasn't that bad. I'm kind of half watching the Lions-Niners here. I need Gibbs to score like 40 points. Otherwise, I'm going to finish in second place. Big letdown. I was hoping for a big Barkley game yesterday. Didn't really get it. Daniels had another good game. He's on my team. But nothing from Barkley. Nothing from JSN. Sucks, man. Sucks. Waddle hurt all year. That'll be the last time I draft that guy. He stinks. So what I'm doing here is just brushing out as much of the big stuff as I can. And you can see maybe on the towel there's quite a bit of dirt. And then I'm going to switch to the Wilson brush and get the rest of this stuff off. I can tell you already, my friends, this leather looks dark thanks to the mud. So let's see how it goes. Like I said before, this is mudding on a budget. We're not trying to make this perfect. We're just trying to make it worthwhile, right? Okay. I found too that it works if you just kind of go in circles a little better, and you have to really brush hard compared to when you're just brushing in wax or brushing in conditioner. Man, this looks good. This is going to be a good turnout for sure. So I like to take a couple of good hard strokes, pause, get out as much as you can. I actually have the screen door open here beside me, which hopefully will help with ventilation, but it is dusty. So my wife's asleep. I'm not too worried about getting any guff for this. At least not tonight. Tomorrow, maybe a different story. We'll see. If you don't see any more videos from me, you'll know what happened. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. This looks like it's going to turn out pretty good, but we'll know more once we finish. We don't want to count our chickens before they hatch. Is that Gibbs? No, Laporta. Laporta, another guy who had a really huge, like, not quite Bowers type rookie year, but a great rookie year for a tight end, and then this year just like vanished. Is he hurt? I think he had like a hurt knee or something. I don't remember, but you just never know. Fantasy's a crapshoot. I like playing fantasy football, but one thing I don't like is when guys who win fantasy are like, oh man, I told you this. I listened to all the right podcasts. I listened to all the right magazines. I read all the right magazines. I'm listening to Sirius XM every day talking about fantasy football or whatever. Like, man, it's really just about injury luck. Everything else is kind of secondary, in my opinion. Okay, that's pretty good. We'll have to go back over that, but you can kind of get an idea of where we're going here. So, do the same thing again. God, this is so dusty. I hate this. I'm going to have to vacuum down here tomorrow. Hopefully you guys got big plans for New Year's Eve. I know for us, since we have the little one now, I will probably go visit a few of our friends in the neighborhood once she goes to bed. But my wife and I will go together to, oh, there's Gibbs, to a couple of parties tomorrow with the little one as she continues making her neighborhood debut. New Year's Eve's a fun holiday, man. I don't think I've ever had a bad time on New Year's Eve. You're always with your friends, you know, with your girlfriend or your wife if you got one of those, and just having a few beers, enjoying discussions about what the year that was brought you, and speculating on what the next year might bring. Always a good time. There's a lot of fucking dust here. Oh, no swearing in these videos, sorry. A lot of dust. Now probably, if I had to guess, when these guys do this as a paid service, I gotta open this door a little more, I'll keep talking. When these guys do this as a paid service, they probably have a power brush, like I said earlier, to make this process a little quicker and probably a little easier too. That's how you know it's hard. I have to stand up and do it. But again, you know, we're saving money. We're learning a bit about leather treatment, learning a bit about football break-in. And take a little pride in your work, you know? You do this stuff on your own and reflect on it later. Like, yeah, you know, I could have paid someone to do this, but I did it myself. Found some guy on YouTube who wants to take money out of the pocket of Big Mud, and started doing this myself. This does look really dark, I have to say. I'm pretty happy about the way this is looking to have turned out. But again, we won't know until we're actually totally finished. Let's keep brushing here. Shit, I'm gonna be here all night doing this. So the other thing I did yesterday was just bring a towel so you can kind of get off the clumpier, more difficult pieces along with the dust, because you will get some dust too when you're brushing. And so what you don't want to do is just keep brushing the same spot over and over again thinking that you have to get dirt off, when really it's just like dust from you doing the brushing in the first place. You'll just find yourself going over the same spots and actually getting the same dust over and over again. It doesn't do anyone any good, so don't want that. Give that a little wipe. See if that speeds up the process. Probably not. Yeah, this does look really dark. Oh yeah, you're gonna notice a big difference in the way that leather looks. I think what I might do is pause this, get the drill and the brush, just for the sake of expediency here, because otherwise my phone's gonna die trying to take this video, and do it outside. So hang tight, and I'll come back in, I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so we have brushed off. I actually used a bit of a damp rag to help with the process, just to speed things along. Most of the mud. You can see the difference, I hope you can, between the laces area and the rest of the ball. Significant darkening. Now here's where the fun part starts. I shouldn't say that, because this was pretty fun too. If you want, there's 2 steps to go. You can use the Wilson conditioner and just condition the ball and then leave it, let it dry, half an hour, whatever, an hour, then wax it. Or you can do what the gridiron guys say and put the conditioner in with the tack, either their blend or make your own, to preference, if you want to do 10-to-1 or 5-to-1 or whatever, and slather the ball. So we're going to do that now. I'm just going to roll this over a little bit, because there's a lot of dirt on that towel. I don't want to get dirt on the ball again. So straightforward. These guys say to use a rag. I don't really use a rag. I just use my hands. Maybe I'll use the bag here for consistency's sake. This Lions game is nuts, by the way. And Gibbs is getting a lot of touches. I don't know if he'll get the 40 points, but he's definitely pushing. I think Purdy's worth max deal. I don't know. He's worth a couple $100 mil over 5 years. Not sure. So use a generous amount, something like that ought to do the trick. Rub it in, panel by panel. Probably still a little bit of dirt on your ball. There was with the Duke, and there looks to be just a tad on there with this one too, but that's okay. No big deal. Rub it in, okay? Again, I'm getting in the seams. I'm going to be going over the stripes. I'm going to be going over the stitching. I'm not that worried about that kind of stuff. Neither should you be, I don't think. It's, again, a ball you're going to use outside. It's not a museum piece. Just make sure it's even. Rub it in as best you can. You can use heat at this stage too. I don't usually. I prefer to just let it sit. I don't like rushing the conditioning process. I think it's better to let this kind of settle into the leather naturally. And the best way to do that, I have found, is just to give it time. Just to give it time. You can put on the towel or rest too. It's not that big a deal. People are always saying stuff like, oh, if you put on the towel absorbs some of the moisture, absorbs some of the leather conditioner. Yeah, maybe, but most of it's already on the leather. I wouldn't worry too much about that. My stripes, my white stripes are pretty dirty, so if that bothers you, like, look away. But I think overall this is going to turn out to be really nice, especially once I tack it with the tack bar. Leather is softer than it was going into the process for sure. And so this conditioner will help, I think, soften it even further, and probably also get it really ready to get tacked up. And then from there, you are going to have a ball that is ready to play with. Let's just let that sit. Okay, we're going to sit it on a towel. We'll be back. We'll see how that finishes. Okay, so we're done. We are finished. We are finished with the mud on both balls. Let's have a look. Again, did this with mud for my backyard. I did shine up the stripes on both balls just so you could see the sort of difference. You can see on the laces there, significant difference in the before color and the after color. And then the team issue dual threat. I didn't think this ball would take the mud as well as it did because it was kind of a gray clay before. But man, this looks good. This looks good. If I clean up the stripes, this will look really sharp. Big difference in before and after. Now I've spoken negatively about mudding, just thinking you know, yeah, I've spoken negatively about mudding balls in the past on this channel and on Twitter actually. But I will say this, you know, there's probably one thing for sure about mudding, and that is that it makes the ball softer. I don't know though if in this process it was made softer by the snowproof wax or by the mud soaking into the ball, or by any number of other things. It could have been any of the above. What I will say is that I think the mud, between the rubbing and then the brushing off, like the rubbing in, the brushing off, and the sort of drying process associated with all that, the ball is definitely softer. The pebbling has become a little smoother, and it's easier to hold in both cases, the ball following the mudding, than it was before. And again, it's not to say that mudding is a bad idea. Obviously it worked on these balls, but I think that paying 50 or 100 or whatever dollars for a tin of this mud, specialty mud, isn't worth it. The thing you may get out of it is a bit of a darker finish and maybe a more even coat than if you make your own. But if you're just throwing it in your yard, or you're throwing it with your buddies, or you're throwing it for a rec team, a beer league team, this is pretty good. This is a good outcome, I think. And I wouldn't recommend buying mud if you could do this first. Disclaimer, obviously, this mud is what I have in my yard. It's what I have in my area. And I did things a certain way here. Who knows? You may try this and get a completely different, worse result. Do not leave me a comment if that happens. I'm not out to ruin your footballs, but just give you some ideas and potential solutions, because it's expensive to do this stuff if you do it with all the equipment and gear and shipping and handling, and you may not want to. So again, Vapor Elite, Team Issue Dual Threat. It's a win, I think. So with that, happy throwing.